How's it going, everybody? This is Top of Driver. Hope you're having another great day, and welcome back to another video. Okay, this is a video I probably should have done on Wednesday instead of right now, considering exactly what happened on Monday night and during the events that I was doing the VA Chuck. But however, I'm going to be talking about the events that happened on Monday Night Football involving Bills defensive player Damar Hamlin. And this was a very scary situation that happened on Monday that really just changed the entire course of the NFL and really just changed the way we view football entirely, and not only that, all sports as well, because it was something completely unexpected. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, share my thoughts on it, and where I think the NFL has to go from here. So for those of you that don't know, this was on Monday night earlier this week between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. This was one of the biggest games of the season, and it was really big because both the Bills and the Bengals were fighting against the Kansas City Chiefs for the #1 seed in the AFC side of the playoffs. So this was a huge matchup that was taking place on Monday night, and whoever won that one was going to have a real advantage when it came to trying to get that #1 seed in the AFC. So in the middle of the first quarter, T. Higgins of the Bengals ended up making a catch and was ended up tackled by Damar Hamlin at midfield. And after a few seconds, everything was pretty fine, you know. Everybody got up and Damar Hamlin was able to get up and he stood for at least a second or two. But after that, that was when the drama happened. After at least a second or two of standing, he just collapsed. Like, literally, without any warning, he just collapsed, dropped to the ground, and was just completely motionless and unconscious on the ground. And every player that was on that field and on the sidelines and the fans, they just acted all horrified. Like, literally, they were just scared, and they were screaming for the medics and medical personnel to come over, and it just turned into a very scary situation. It was even scarier because he was administered CPR, literally, on the field in front of thousands of fans, and that's something I've never seen on an NFL field before prior to that night. So that was really scary to watch, and ultimately he would end up being escorted out on an ambulance and taken to the nearby University of Cincinnati Medical Hospital, where he currently is at right now. And ultimately the game between the Bills and the Bengals, it was stopped, and ultimately, as we now know now, that game has officially been declared a no contest and it's not going to be rescheduled. That's it. It's over. Fortunately though, things have gotten better since then. After a few days of being in a critical state, Damar Hamlin has since regained consciousness and most recently reawoken, and as of yesterday we found out that he was now FaceTiming with his teammates and even spoke to the entire team to let them know that he's doing okay and that he loves all of them. And really, that's the best that we can really hear from right now. You know, the fact that, you know, like Damar Hamlin, after everything that just happened on Monday, literally the fact that he is still alive and now speaking with his teammates to let them know that he's okay, literally, it was a feel-good moment right there. I mean, I really did not know exactly what would have happened had those medical personnel for the Buffalo Bills not been there fast enough to be able to save Damar's life and to be able to allow the UC medical team to be able to take care of him the way they were able to do it. I mean, literally, it was a string of events that started from chaos and a lot of scarce uncertainty to now what looks like to be a very happy ending. But yeah, this was a really scary thing that happened, and I'm not saying that just because I know it. I saw it. Literally, I was watching Monday Night Football the moment that it happened, and I'll tell you something, I have never seen anything like that happen on a football field, like, ever. And to be honest with you, I'm hoping I never see something like that again. I mean, it was such a scary situation where this happened literally in front of thousands of fans there at Cincinnati. Heck, even kids were even there witnessing it. I mean, that literally produced a whole lot of trauma. I feel like that the NFL made the right decision in just calling off the rest of the Bills and Bengals games altogether, because to be honest with you, like, in a situation like that, how do you expect the players to be able to get back out on the field and play? I mean, it would have been very, very hard. I mean, literally, like, if it was like a horrific, like, gruesome leg injury like that, yeah, it would produce a lot of shock and a lot of people being scared and all of that stuff. However, it would ultimately be able to clear the field and be able to get the teams back out on the field and be able to play. This was an unprecedented situation, and literally, it was next to impossible for all those players to be able to come together, get back out on the field and play for something like that. They would probably be too scared to even be able to step back out there after what happened to Damar. Obviously, this does affect the playoffs in a certain way. However, I do feel like that if the NFL had tried to finish that game, considering that, you know, next week is the beginning of the NFL playoffs, I really feel like it would have caused a whole lot of chaos, and really it probably could have caused a lot of games to have to be pushed back or rescheduled as a result, and I don't think the NFL really want that to happen. That would have been a major black eye. So as much as it really sucks to see that game canceled, I do applaud them for that decision. I feel like it was a smart move by them, and hopefully we don't have to end up with something like that again. The next thing though, I really have to praise the medical personnel from the Buffalo Bills for being there quick enough to be able to save Damar and keep him alive for as long as possible for the University of Cincinnati medical team to be able to do their job and bring him back to life. I mean, there was really a report at one point that he had lost almost all pulse on that field for that particular moment, and that was when the CPR had to be administered. I don't know who the guy's name is on the Bills staff that gave him that CPR, but he's a real life hero, man. It's hard to react to something like that, and so obviously, when a situation like that happens, you just don't know what to do. You just feel like that, do I try to do something, or am I just too scared to be able to step up, feeling that, hey, maybe this guy really is dead, I really don't know what to do. But hey, when somebody's life is in danger, you gotta find a way to step up, and for us Bills team to be able to step up and be able to administer that CPR, I really feel like that was what allowed Damar to live for as long as he can, and really give the University of Cincinnati medical team enough time to be able to restore Damar back to full health and ultimately put him back on what will be a lengthy recovery, but ultimately now a much safer one as a result. And I really have to praise the medical personnel on the Buffalo Bills for being able to start that process and giving him that CPR, so that way they can be able to help him with his recovery. Safety obviously is very important nowadays in sports, and obviously one of those situations where you really have to be prepared for the unexpected, and that was certainly unexpected. So obviously if you're somebody that's hoping to get into the medical field, lesson learned here, learn CPR, because you can easily save somebody's life by doing something like that, and I applaud those on the Bills medical personnel for being able to do that. But I think the main thing right now that I need to talk about is, where does the league go from here? This is something that has not happened in such a long time, at least not in the modern era. In fact, it has happened at least once before, as far as I remember. Back in 1971, there was an NFL game in which a player named Chuck Hughes had something almost eerily similar to what happened to Damar Hamlin on Monday night. It was during the final minute of a game that took place in December, and literally after a play, he just did the same thing that Damar Hamlin did. Something gave in his body and he just collapsed. However, unfortunately, he did not end up in a more positive fate than Damar did. He unfortunately passed away from that incident, and as a result, he remains the only in-game fatality in NFL history. So it has happened before, just not in the modern era, and so those that were around during that time in 1971 can tell you exactly what it's like. But it's a very scary situation. I mean, it's something that you almost never see nowadays in the NFL, and really when something like that happens, it really just puts a lot of trauma, not just on everybody else around, but really everybody that's watching it literally live. I mean, literally the fear that you saw in all those players' eyes when you saw Damar Hamlin collapse. It was such a very scary moment. I had fear for everybody that was there as well. I fear that somebody else could end up having that same exact fate. Obviously, I do feel like that there should be some programs that are there so that way that players can have a better idea how to care for their bodies and something like that, or maybe it's just something that will allow them to be able to look out for their own health, something like that. So that way, whenever they're taking a field for practice, or maybe going out for a game or something like that, they can be better prepared to be able to protect their bodies in case something like that happens. Because let's face it, these guys, they're being pushed around quite a bit. They're in full pads and uniform, having to hit each other at very fast amounts of speed, and it couldn't happen literally in a snap. You never know when your last play is going to be. You never know if you're going to have some sort of horrific injury like that, and more importantly, you never know if something like what happened with Damar is going to happen. You know what I mean? It's really hard to tell what could happen. So I feel like that, yes, give some programs to allow them to know how to care for those bodies better, because the last thing we would want to happen is for somebody to have a cardiac arrest on the field like Damar did and have the same exact thing happen again, only this time with a much worse fate. But let's face it, I'm a huge auto racing fan. Obviously, we all know that it's not as big as the NFL is nowadays here in America, but motorsports is something that I watch a whole lot of. NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula 1, sports car racing. Here's something that the NFL doesn't know that we do. Stuff like this happens almost all the time in auto racing. Literally, it doesn't matter what motorsport it is. There's literally a good chance that whenever somebody steps into the driver's seat, somebody's risking their lives in doing this. Like literally, I have seen race car drivers literally killed in front of my eyes. Like for example, Dan Weldon, IndyCar superstar, a two-time Indianapolis 500 winner. In fact, he won the IndyCar championship all the way back in 2005. He ended up getting involved in a huge accident at Las Vegas back in 2011, and he ended up losing his life as a result of that. I saw that literally live on my TV at that moment. I could not tell you how much that was really traumatizing to watch. And so, having come from a sport where I grew up around for almost my entire life, I can tell you personally that it happens quite a bit in auto racing. It rarely ever does though in the NFL. And I feel like that as somebody that has seen something like that before, I feel like that I can really reach out to the NFL and let them know that you are not alone. It can happen at any time. And really, when something like that happens, the best thing that you can do is try to seek a lot of help mentally and also emotionally, because there's always a possibility that at some point it may eventually happen again, but only this time even worse. Look, all the players that were affected by what just happened there, that were on that field, and those that may have been watching it live, they are really having a lot of thoughts mentally about whether or not they even want to step on the field again after what happened. There are a lot of guys that really are just fearful that it could happen to them now, and because of that, that could cause a lot of issues with their mental health. And obviously, that could be a huge problem going forward, because now they fear literally stepping out on that field and having the same thing happen to them like they did with Damar. So I really hope that the NFL, while they do have a lot of mental health resources, I do hope that there's a lot more of them that they can use. I mean, at this point, mental health right now for the players is a lot more important right now when they step on the field this Sunday for the final week of the regular season in regards to exactly what just happened last Saturday. Because let's face it, that incident with Damar Hamlin, it's going to be attached to their minds forever. They were a part of something that we hope to never see again. And it's really going to put a lot of trauma on them. Players are regular human beings as well, and they have emotions as well too. And so seeing something like that happen, it's really going to affect them mentally. And so I really hope that there's a way forward for the NFL to be able to help give the players an opportunity to openly discuss their concerns about the safety of the league, and also, just give them, an opportunity to seek help mentally and be able to overcome situations like what just happened with Damar Hamlin. Because, I feel like that, in order for us to be able to get past something like that, we need to come together and be able to discuss our feelings in regards to something like that. And, without those resources, it's going to be very hard for us to be able to do that. So I really do applaud the NFL so far in regards to the handling of everything that's happening. I do feel like mental health should be prioritized at this time. So yeah, obviously players nowadays are going to be looking back at that Monday night and just seeing exactly what happened, and they're just going to have a whole lot of fear. So I really hope that there's a lot more mental health resources available, a lot more resources out there to allow players to be able to overcome something like that and just better protect themselves, so that way we can be able to never see something like that again. And for the NFL to be able to continue to give the fans exactly what they want and be able to see some good, hard-hitting football. Because let's face it, the last thing we want to see is for something like what happened on Monday night to happen again. Look, the NFL is a fun sport. I love football. It's my favorite sport after auto racing and the NBA and all that stuff. But still, stuff like this could be bound to happen literally unexpectedly. It can happen literally in a moment. And as a result, things can turn into a life or death situation very fast. And that was one situation that really turned into a life or death situation in really a matter of moments. And while we do hope that something like that does not happen again, we do know that it possibly could if for some reason, something like that ends up happening with another player at another field. And who knows, it could happen literally anywhere in any sport. But really the best way forward for us is to really just make sure that we have the health and mental health resources to be able to allow players to be able to openly discuss what's on their mind and to be able to care for themselves a lot more. Because I feel like in situations like this, in order for something like what happened with Damar Hamlin to not happen again, we have to make sure that the players are healthy and also be able to mentally compress exactly everything that's going on. And so as long as we're doing that, I really feel like the NFL will be heading back in the right direction. But yeah, it's great to see that Damar Hamlin's recovering. He's awake and alert and just talking to his teammates again. It's really a God-given miracle at this point, and I really hope that even if we never see him play football again, that we can see him out of that hospital soon, because literally right now the entire world is rooting for him. And to see that he is okay, man, it's such a great feeling. And hopefully, here's that we never see another situation like what happened on Monday night ever again. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. It was a very scary situation that I saw in front of my eyes, and really something that I hope that we never see happen again. But I really want to hear from you. I mean, those that saw it live or even on the internet or something like that, I mean, what are your thoughts on this situation? I mean, what are your feelings about what happened with Damar Hamlin, and where do you think the NFL can go from here at this point? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be more than interested in hearing your opinions about it. Anyways, that's going to do it for another video. I hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know my latest video is released. Comment below for future suggestions for all my videos, whether it's vlogs, projects, or challenges, you name it. Leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. And as always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's going to do it for another video. I hope you're having another great day. As always, I hope to see all of you again in another video very soon. So long, everybody.